Hey, Foot Clan, before we start today's show, are you a big fan? Do you enjoy the 5 days a week of action and need like one more episode every single week? Head over to jointhefoot.com. We have an exclusive episode every single Thursday with listener questions. Check it out at jointhefoot.com.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from the FantasyJocks.com studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Welcome to the show. I've got an idea.
What's that?
Instead of ending these games as a tie,
Okay.
we take Catanzaro and Hauschka, and we do best out of 10 from like the 30-yard line.
Oh, I was really hoping you went fight to the death.
Either way, I'm sure that would be entertaining. Welcome to the podcast, the Fantasy Footballers. Andy, Mike, and Jason back. It's Monday. It's October 24th. And, what a night.
Oof. And not a good one like that
What a
song.
night when everybody who leaves the stadium is sad. There's not anybody on that, because not only did neither team win the game, but both teams should have won the game. So,
Right.
you both leave mad at your kicker.
Yeah. That's why I'm telling you, that fight to the death. That's
I know.
a good idea.
It's a good idea.
We got to get some steam off, guys. The only way you're allowed back on the team is if you kill that guy.
Yeah, well, it's just
I'll talk to Goodell and see if we can do something
I was gonna
about
say,
it. Hey, ratings are down.
ratings are down. It's time to go Gladiator. Let's talk about what's on the show today. We have our fantasy rewind, recapping this weekend's injuries. We have our fantasy stud muffins of the week, along with our Raising Cane's Rising Stars. Little teaser for you. Last week we had all wide receivers, coincidentally. This week we have 3 running backs in our Rising Stars. These are guys that we think moving forward in fantasy football will deliver for you. We also will be going through all of our Allen Robinson pooped in our big boy pants.
Oh, no.
Players that disappointed. Long-term prognosis for those guys. We have our Monday night preview on the show today as well. And so it's going to be jam-packed. Mike was at the game last night.
I was.
And so I'm going to get his opinion on that momentarily. Find us on Twitter at the FF Ballers. The website's thefantasyfootballers.com. The community is jointhefoot.com. Mike, are you alive? Because I'm nearly. I mean, I think we're all kind of tired after that.
Well, it was
battle.
It was not just the game. I mean, that was a very long day, and I wanted to just join hands with the Foot Clan out there and say the tilt is real. I was in this tilt.
The tilt is real.
Yes, and I'm talking almost all day, where I had to wake up. You had to get up early for the morning game. I'm watching the Giants DST just explode on my fantasy team.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I have the LeSean McCoy drama. I was one of you. I had Shady McCoy.
You had a bad day.
I had Mike Gillislee all morning. I'm like, okay, I feel very confident in this. I'm gonna pivot to Gio Bernard here. And then you get the reports from Ian Rappaport. He's like, Shady's gonna play, and he's expected to be himself.
His normal self.
Like, what are you talking about? Why do you got to do that? Like right before everything is being all the decisions are being made. So I have to make that decisions. You're moving on. You get into the Sunday night game, which is just
Dogfight.
like I don't know if I've ever experienced anything like that, where the intensity in the stadium was life draining. Like I've lost my life at this point.
Oh yeah.
I've already deceased. I have to go home.
You are now a bearded
I've already
ghost. You're a bearded ghost
I
at this
have
point.
to go home, and this is slightly off fantasy topic, but I got to go home because The Walking Dead premiere is on, and I can't go on social media because it's a huge opening episode. I watched that episode. I die again because of the The Walking Dead is I've tilted over 360 degrees.
all
So
the way
you're
back
you're
around
back
to
to
normal.
normal.
But then I went another 180, so I died again.
Sure. I
So-
think being deceased in the Walking Dead premiere seems like a good fit.
Hey, and Chris Hardwick, I know you're watching the show. I'm ready. I'm ready for Talking Dead, my man.
Okay. All right. Well, it was
Bring me back to life.
It was a heck of a tie last night. Didn't think that was the first
Oh my goodness.
tie without a touchdown since 1972.
How about this stat? No defense in the history of the NFL has been on the field longer than the Seahawks were last night. In the history of the NFL, nobody has played as much defense as they did, and they didn't give up a single touchdown.
How about this stat? There's been 3 6-6 ties since the merger.
All
3 involve the Cardinals.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into the quick question before the rewind here. I'm going to skip. I had 3 options for this. One was, did last night really happen? We've already covered that.
Yes.
I'm going to go with, what should fantasy owners do about Allen Robinson? Because, yes, we could save him for the Poot in the Big Boy Pants segment, but I think this is enough of a headline. There's enough bold font in this question for me to move it to the top because, look, at home against Oakland, and something's not right. And Mike said it this week. He said, you don't accidentally get 1,400 yards and 14 touchdowns, which is what he did last year. So, buy low, freak out.
Yeah.
I mean, here's what I see, and this is my fantasy analysis. I don't see – what's his nickname?
The target monster.
Yeah. His nickname last year was the target monster. You know what I don't see? I don't see a target monster. He has less targets this year going into this week than Mike Wallace did. He was sitting there somewhere in the 20s. And without that volume, look, and the Jacksonville offense doesn't have it together. They don't have it figured out.
No,
which makes it so confusing. You bring – because Marquise Lee wasn't part of the offense last year. Rashad Green wasn't part of the offense last year. It was Robinson and it was Hearns. Even Julius Thomas wasn't a big part of the offense.
Because he was injured a lot.
Now there's a bunch of players. None of them can build a rapport with Bortles, and he clearly can't go through these progressions like we thought.
Yeah.
So it seemed like it was better when it was a 2-horse race.
Blake Bortles is, I think, the bigger problem here. He looks horrific. And I agree. Now that he has more weapons, it's like he seems like he has no idea what to do with it. I would still target him in a trade. I've had a lot of people asking me on Twitter, do I drop him? No. You don't drop Allen Robinson. Even if Allen Robinson goes on the rest of the year to score 2 fantasy points a game and completely crap your team, you don't drop him because you can trade him. There are plenty of people willing to pay for him. And if I could get him on the dirt cheap, I still would. But he would be one of those guys where going forward, you got to prove it to me. I'm not necessarily starting him every single week, but I'm still going to start him in good matchups because I know. Look, I know the Jaguars are going to go and take a look.
Maybe when
Blake Bortles is going to take a look and say, what do we need to fix?
Right. Maybe when we go through the stud muffins from this week, if there's a guy you think you can cash in their value from playing well this week for Allen Robinson, let me know because that's the guy that we need to bring up. So let's jump into the rewind.
Weekly Rewind.
Well, Rex Ryan's stupid for fantasy owners.
Look,
I mean, why play LeSean McCoy?
It's not even fantasy owners. It's your NFL team.
Yeah, and they lost.
Why did you rush LeSean McCoy back? If reports are coming out that LeSean McCoy is going to miss multiple weeks in the actual practice,
or
when they were assessing the injury, they thought there is reason for concern here. I understand that LeSean McCoy, players always want to play. Look, I get that. I mean, I'm a flag football player. I mean, I know what it's like.
You do. You really understand.
I mean, I broke my toe and I wanted to keep playing, so I know what this is. I know it. I'm there. But when you're the coach, you have to say what is best for our team right now, and what's best is LeSean McCoy long term, not in a division matchup that you should be able to win without him. And you risked him. He was very inefficient. He re-injured himself, and now
who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows? You might cost yourself future weeks.
They even talked about this.
Well, it's not like
they talked about it. They said that we don't want to do what we did last year, which is rush him back from a hamstring injury, then lose him for multiple weeks. And that's
did they
exactly
wink?
What
did they wink at the end of that? Did they go wink? It seems like it. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. All right, Jamaal Charles had an MRI on both knees.
Yeah, it was before the weekend.
Just for fun?
Yeah, that's. I'm gonna go down to the MRI shop.
Yeah. You know, one of his
Grab
knees
a candy bar and a couple MRIs.
one of his knees was swelling up. Obviously, there are concerns here. He only got one carry. It's not looking great for the bring Jamaal Charles back into great.
Well, his knee swelled up after the game last week, and maybe this was buy one get one free. Maybe that's why he had both. Maybe
I clipped this
A
out of the paper. I got a BOGO. Might as well check the other one out.
We're making light of a sad thing for Jamaal Charles, but I mean, yeah. Basically, we'll talk about this more in the Rising Stars. Tevin Coleman was forced from Atlanta's Week 7 game with a hammy injury after playing great.
Dude, I was so excited. He was my start of the week. He was looking like a monster. He still had a good game. No fantasy owner that started him was sad with the outcome. They were just disappointed with what could have been.
Yep.
Because at that point when he went out, I think Freeman had like 2 carries or 2 yards.
We'll talk more about, well, you have to monitor this as the week goes on. Jerick McKinnon suffered an ankle injury. He was kind of in and out after that and didn't see a lot of snaps down the stretch. Pay attention to the practice reports on McKinnon.
You know who saw snaps?
Asiata.
Ronnie Hillman.
Wow. Cash and checks.
Pick him up.
That's a joke. No, don't take that advice.
That's a joke.
Hey, Cody Kessler got hurt. Now Hogan came in, and honestly, watching him run the ball was awesome.
Yes.
I mean, he was actually awesome running the ball on read option plays. He scored that touchdown. This is their 6th quarterback and the 7th player to throw a pass for that team this year, because the 6 quarterbacks doesn't count Terrell Pryor.
That's incredible. And the reality is, based on what we see with their pass protection, I think they're going to have 4 or 5 more. I mean, they need to go out and
they're talking about trading Joe Thomas.
Well, they're the only winless team, right?
Are they?
They're 0-7
Yeah.
now.
Oh, well.
Not exactly doing what the Indians and Cavaliers have done this year.
No, you're letting down the trifecta, Cleveland Browns.
Geno Smith went to the locker room right knee injury, didn't return. They said they think he's fine, so we'll see what happens next week. Fitzpatrick led him to a win.
It's a mess.
Fitzpatrick also came out and said he didn't think anybody believed in him anymore.
I did not get to see it, but I saw the reaction on social media that it sounded like there was kind of a pity party going on.
Yeah.
Is that the way it seemed?
I don't know yet. We'll see what happens. I don't know who's going to start the next game. I'm sure. I think Brandon Marshall owners would be a lot happier with Fitzpatrick behind center.
Either way, I think it's all right. Personally.
Yeah. I do too.
All right, Brian Hoyer, 6 weeks. He'll return. And then Josh Norman got a concussion. So next game is against Cincinnati in London. If he's out, you can start AJ Green like always. So,
man, that catch.
Yeah, the Hail Mary.
The Hail Mary at the halftime, that was, I don't know if I've seen something like that where he was just batting the ball to him like
a kitty cat?
Yeah, like a kitty cat. Like come here, and then it stuck in his hand. Incredible.
It was perfect. There are a few players in the league that are routinely spectacular. Julio, AJ Green, could probably say Odell Beckham Jr., Antonio Brown. I mean, that was par for the course for AJ Green. He just does stuff like that. So, any other news you guys have heard about this morning, or are we moving on?
We'll move on. If we need to hit the button, we'll hit the button.
This week's Fantasy Stud Muffins.
Let's talk about quarterbacks that performed this week. You had Andrew Luck against Tennessee, went 27 for 39, 353 and 3. Drew Brees on the road.
Yeah, got it done.
367 and 3.
All the worries aside, I know I benched Brees for me. Didn't turn out too bad because I had another stud muffin in Andy Dalton. But yeah, he got it done on the road. I was very impressed.
It's interesting because Dalton got it done, 2 touchdowns, 308 yards, but did it on 19 completions, compared to some of these other guys like Drew Brees who did it on 37 completions.
Well, that was one of the worries about Dalton, was that they would get such a big lead, and the reality is I think he finished for my team in our format with 30 points, but he had 26 at halftime.
Yep.
So,
yeah, well, this game was more competitive than expected because they did get down and they scored a couple of times. Hogan even scored, brought the game, within a few points. So, look, we've had listeners talk about Tyrod Taylor, He was 7 for 35 and a touchdown, 221 through the air with another touchdown, claiming that we don't give him enough credit. What do you think about that? Because at this point in time, you add this to the rest of the weeks he's had. He's been pretty good. What do we do with Tyrod Taylor moving forward?
Man, it's tough. Well, now you have Goodwin dealing with a concussion, so that could take away one of his deep threats.
Taylor was the 12th ranked fantasy quarterback before the week, put up 30 this week. He's been above 20 in 5 of 7 games. And he's got – no, I'm not buying in. New England, Seattle, bye week, Cincinnati, next 4 weeks.
Yeah,
he's just such a tough start.
Yeah, and that's why, sometimes I've made him my start of the week because he's got the potential to be a big blow up. He's right now on the season, including this week, he's the number 7 quarterback. But you're going to have to take some huge risk when you start him.
It's a lot like Mariota.
Yeah.
If he throws touchdowns, gets in for touchdowns, it's not going to come in yardage. It's not going to come in volume completions.
Yeah, and I would rather my quarterback come through yardage, through volume, so that should the touchdowns not come because they're the least predictable thing, then I'm not ending up with a 6 or a 7. I'm ending up with a 14.
How about Blake Bortles versus Tyrod Taylor? Where are you going to go now?
Ooh, at this point,
I'd take Taylor because
I would too.
He's already playing better. You got the baseline on the ground. There was a point in the third quarter, I think, where Bortles had 8 yards passing. 8.
Well, the Raiders' defense have been locking everybody down.
Unbelievable.
Oh, wait, no, they've been giving it up to everyone.
I don't know why you guys have been in that Gus Bradley camp for so long. I am not a fan of that coach.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me hide this picture I have here.
Yeah. Sorry, Gus.
Running backs. Let's talk about some running backs.
You skipped over
No.
Jameis.
Jameis Winston, 269 and 3. Mike Evans is very good. Aaron Rodgers had the good week. Jason, I saw you on Twitter telling people sell.
Yeah, no, I would sell because Aaron Rodgers has not looked his normal self, but he just put up a week that says, I'm my normal self. And so while he's got a couple good games coming up, in the fantasy playoffs, people are always asking, who's got good matchups, who's got bad matchups. He has 2 horrific matchups in the fantasy playoffs.
I'm guessing one of those is Minnesota.
Yeah, I want to say it's Minnesota and Seattle. I will vet.
You will vet?
Yes.
Let's see.
All right, he's got so weeks 14, 15, 16 is Seattle.
Ooh.
And then he's got Chicago and then Minnesota. So you got to get past Seattle. That's not going to be good.
No, that's not good.
No, that's why I'm saying
and
you'll get a haul for Aaron Rodgers after this week. Aaron Rodgers has the name to get trades done. He put up a point total that will let people know he's back.
He will do that for the next 2 weeks, though, I think.
Well, I agree.
Atlanta, Indianapolis.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. You're going to be able to get a haul. If you want to wait a week or 2, that's fine, but depending on your trade deadline.
Good week from Winston. Good week from Cousins. Pulled it together. Wasn't looking good in that game. Mike was facing Matt Jones, and when Matt Jones fumbled into the end zone, I could not hear audibly the words that Jay Gruden was saying, but I saw expletive, Robert Kelly, expletive, as in we're going to get him in the game, and we're going to take Matt Jones out of this game.
Jones did get back in the game. Speaking of, Twitter had my back on this one. I gave Matt Jones a very heartfelt apology last week.
Someone needs to apologize to you, Mike.
Someone owes me an apology.
Matt Jones?
No. I don't agree. We'll see. We'll see what happens. You said it yourself. He got back in the game.
Yeah.
But didn't help. Fumbles are going to kill him.
He
has not earned the illustrious Adrian Peterson can fumble all you want and you're back in the game title. He's got the Stephen Ridley.
He's got the itis.
Yeah, he does. He does not run and protect the ball. Running backs, stud muffins.
There were a lot of them.
Holy freaking crap.
That's
Jay Ajayi,
28 for 214 and a touchdown against the very respectable defense.
There's only 4 players in NFL history, 2 of which are in the Hall of Fame, that ever put back-to-back 200-plus yards rushing.
Well,
what do you do with Jay Ajayi?
Jay Ajayi is the RB blank for the rest of the season. In fantasy football, Jay Ajayi is the RB
I'm going 16.
Yeah, I'm still going with the 2. I'm going.
I don't think.
I am going 8.
Oh, okay.
You got it.
I'm gonna give him a top.
You got
10.
him a 1.
I do.
It's
a done deal.
Here's the problem.
Ooh, it's done deal.
Here's the problem for me. The team spent the entire offseason burying Ajayi. They wanted nothing to do with him. They went and they got Arian Foster coming off of a ruptured Achilles.
That was after they tried to sign C.J. Anderson.
After they had courted C.J. Anderson, they spent the beginning of the season trying to bury Ajayi.
Doesn't matter.
I agree with Andy.
It's
on
a
that
result.
one.
It's a results business.
I don't know.
The Seattle Seahawks
totally
spent
get
4
that.
years trying to bury Christian Michael. Guess who's starting in their backfield?
Just saying that
Boom!
Boom.
that it's so. That's why I'm saying it's difficult to know what to do with him.
Here's why
He gave me 214 reasons this weekend.
I think he is going to be their lead back going forward. The lead back for the Miami Dolphins, I think in general, is going to be less valuable than the lead back for most other teams. I cannot fathom that he's able to continue putting up 200 yards on the ground. Only 4 players in NFL history, I just said, have ever done that. He's coming back down to earth, and from earth, I think he'll be on the Dolphins, and won't score very many touchdowns, but he'll get the lion's share from here forward.
Yeah, I like him. I like him as a top 10. Melvin Gordon, scoring touchdowns, 22 for 68 and 2 on the ground, 6 for 53 and 1 through the air, making up for last year.
I just want to compare these lines real quick. Ajayi, 28 for 214 yards. Melvin Gordon, 22 for 68 yards.
Yeah, that's going to happen if you compare anybody to 214 yards, Mike.
Just saying. Well,
Melvin Gordon's dominating for fantasy owners.
For fantasy owners, yes.
And for this team.
Yeah,
He's absolutely doing what is required of him to be a top-tier running back. They're winning games. He just beat Denver. They just beat Atlanta after 17-point deficit. Melvin Gordon's doing work. I will not let you spit upon him.
I thought about putting him in the Rising Stars just as almost an homage because I see Melvin Gordon as the original Razor Cage Rising Star because when we launched it, he had back-to-back-to-back weeks in the preseason where we said, look, he's looking good, and he has backed up everything. I mean, you want to talk about how last year, based on the carry count, he should have had touchdowns, and we said it was coming this year?
Yep.
I didn't know it was coming like this.
All right.
Making up for lost time.
Matt Forte, 30 carries, 100 yards, 1 touchdown on the ground, another 4 for 54 and a touchdown through the air. I pumped the brakes on Matt Forte.
He pumped your face with his fist.
Yeah, Matt Forte came out and spat upon my it's like he heard me. But do you buy the question for fantasy owners is do you buy into this? Because if you're a Forte owner, you're really happy. But this might be your chance to trade him.
Well, I'm saying as a Forte owner, I am not happy because I benched him.
Oh, man. Yeah, I guess there are.
Okay, but do you trade him now? Or would you move Matt Forte for Jonathan Stewart?
Ooh, Jonathan Stewart. If I can get Jonathan Stewart for Matt Forte, I would. Yes, I would take that.
I probably would. We've seen a couple of big weeks out of Matt Forte, and at least 2 of them required 30 carries.
Right.
And
this is still barely over 3 a carry.
Right. And so he had 30 carries yesterday when they had the quarterback switch. I don't think he's going to be able to get 30 carries most games. If you look at what happened after he got those first 2 weeks of massive workload, it really tapered off. If he's not getting 35 touches, he's not going to be doing what he did yesterday. So I would look to capitalize on it.
All right. Let me do some math for you here. If Jeremy Hill received the same carry count as Ajayi and kept his yards per carry, he would have gone 28 for 522. Because Jeremy Hill put up 168 against the Browns despite being half injured and only receiving 9 carries. Because he was started against me. That's why.
Jeremy Hill. He's just I can't quit him, man. Every time I think I can move on from Jeremy Hill, I was starting to, I put a toe in the Gio Bernard pool. I had my feet in. The temperature was decent.
This is,
move on.
So
You're
Jeremy
moving
Hill.
Oh, move on. This was not Jeremy Hill. This was the Cleveland Browns.
Let me ask you this: did you trade Forte for Allen Robinson?
No. Running backs were more valuable.
Would you trade Hill for Allen Robinson after this week?
Yeah, depending. I mean, running back for wide receiver is a completely team-dependent move, but
People want to know.
Yeah, I mean, if all things are the same and I'm not hurting my running back's depth, then yes, I would.
LeGarrette Blount, 24 for 127 and 2 touchdowns.
Beast.
Is this the some weeks he'll do it, some weeks he won't?
Yep. But I think he has value every single week.
What happened to James White in the second half of that game?
LeGarrette Blount happened.
Yeah, it really did become that script. I remember thinking in
It's
the
a
first
danger
quarter.
of a pass catching back.
Yep. The first quarter in our format, I started James White, had 10 points, and then he finished it 10 points. I was like, what's going on? Why didn't you touch the ball anymore?
Hey, before we jump into the rest of the running backs, I want to thank today's sponsor, SeatGeek, getting you to the events that you want to be at. Sports.
You mean like all NFL ties? You can go to those games?
You can go all to those, but it's not just sports, music, comedy. Do you need a ticket to get in? Then you jump on the SeatGeek app. It's the smartest and easiest way to find tickets. Look, a week ago, we're sitting in the office. I says, hey, Andy, you want to go to the Monday Night Football game? He's like,
I says.
I says, yeah. 2 minutes later, we got a great deal. We have great seats. We have tickets. We're ready to go. It's fantastic because SeatGeek searches all the other ticket sellers. They let you know with an easy-to-use color-coded map. They show you where the values are. You download the app. You look at the stadium. You pick where you want to go, and they say green. Green means go. We learned that when we're 2 years old. Green means go on the SeatGeek app as well, and SeatGeek gives you a 100% guarantee on all tickets purchased. Best of all, you get a $20 rebate off your first SeatGeek purchase. To get your $20 rebate, you grab the free SeatGeek app, you go to the settings tab, you add a promo code, you use the code Footballers. And SeatGeek is going to send you 20 bones after you make your first purchase, so download the free SeatGeek app and use the code Footballers today.
We also want to thank Blue Apron, not just for being a great sponsor of the show, but for being an awesome company and service.
Delicious.
And delicious. All three of us here use Blue Apron. It takes the hassle out of cooking, out of figuring out what to make, out of having to shop for ingredients. Blue Apron is basically a company that they have people that put together incredible meals with really high quality, locally sourced ingredients. They ship it to you with like this big recipe card. All three of us use it. For me, the thing that I like the most about it, other than taking all that hassle out, is like the family time. We cook together as a family, and it's just proven cooking together builds strong family bonds. You know, we're a family show. We're family men. Love Blue Apron for that. And, you know, look, instead of going out and spending a ton of money at restaurants or eating garbage through the drive-thru, as from time to time I have done in my life, you know, this is delicious home-cooked meals for less than $10 per person per meal. So here's what you need to do if you want to hop in on this Blue Apron goodness. Check out this week's menu, okay, and get your first 3 meals free with free shipping by going to blueapron.com/ballers, and you will love how good it feels and tastes to create incredible home-cooked meals with Blue Apron. So don't wait. It's blueapron.com/ballers. It's a better way to cook.
All right, and some other running backs that enjoyed eating this weekend:
And
DeMarco
cooking.
Murray, Spencer Ware, Latavius Murray, and Jacquizz Rodgers. Has to be an encouraging sign for Latavius Murray owners
Yeah.
to see him get back and do what he's done well this year, which is, you know, get in the end zone.
Get touchdowns.
Get in the end zone. Well, look, and having a couple weeks to watch the Raiders offense with DeAndre Washington, with Jalen Richard, showed me that Latavius Murray's not losing that starting job. I think, to me, seeing DeAndre Washington, he does some good things, but he kind of looks undersized to me. He doesn't look like a frontline back. He looks like a very complimentary back. Richard ran clearly as the number 3 this week. And so I think Latavius Murray is a very comfortable mid to late running back 2 for me.
Yeah, I could buy into that. I have no problem with it.
All right, talk about Q, Mike. You started him this week. We don't know when Doug Martin's coming back. The latest report from Coach Dirk Cutter is he just plain doesn't know when Doug Martin's going to be able to get back on the field from the setback. Jacquizz Rodgers seems like somebody you can just roll out.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, another monster game, 26 for 154. And we're actually going to go into Jacquizz in a little bit of detail later.
And we're going to go into Spencer Ware, so we'll
Devonta
hold off on those
Freeman
guys.
light. That's what I call Jacquizz Rodgers.
All right, wide receivers. Wide receivers, we've got some guys that you know you're starting every week, so these are pretty much just foregone conclusions. A.J. Green, 8 for 169 and 1, including that incredible touchdown. Mike Evans, 8 for 96 and 2.
Did you?
How many wide receivers do you want ahead of Mike Evans right now?
That's a great question.
Very, very little.
AJ,
Julio, Antonio Brown.
Odell Beckham Jr. Maybe.
I think, but I don't know. I thought about offering Mike my Odell Beckham for Mike Evans. You don't have Mike. I always think you have Mike Evans.
That's not going to work. But what was
so? I don't know. I think right now, if
you get Mike Gillislee back if you offer it to Mike.
If I had to, yeah. I mean, honestly, I would trade if this is just redraft. I'm taking Mike Evans over Odell Beckham. I think his playoff schedule is amazing.
So good.
His consistency.
That's hot sauce.
His consistency is far better. You don't have to wait for the 200-yard, 2-touchdown games. You're getting so many targets every single week. He is the only option there.
What's his relationship with the kicking net?
It's the way I like it.
Neutral, like most people.
It's difficult. But I love the Evans touchdown where you watch him in the end zone. He looks at Winston. He just points up. He's like, I'm 6'5". Just throw it up. Throw it up in the air to the 10-foot level, and that's not a problem. You can't stop that.
Another, T.Y. Hilton, big game, 7 for 133 and a touchdown. Had one touchdown called back on a penalty, so he could have had dose. Yeah. And Julio was his Julio self. I really enjoyed watching the Falcons in those black jerseys, those throwbacks. That was awesome.
Yeah, and don't forget the sharp cheddar, Davante Adams.
Well, I was giving you the big names first, and I was going to rotate to guys that need some questions answered for the rest of the season. Davante Adams was 13 for 132 and 2 touchdowns. Randall Cobb went 11 for 95 and 1. Between them, 24 of Aaron Rodgers' receptions. And then you had Michael Crabtree come back to wide receiver 1 for him, 8 for 96 and a touchdown against Jacksonville. If you had to rate those 3 guys rest of the season, how do you do it?
Who's the third? Davante Adams, Crabtree, and
Cobb.
I'm going Crabtree first, yes. Cobb, Adams.
I would go.
So you don't buy into Adams this being a Ajayi like breakout at the wide receiver position, something that
He's
actually
had a couple big games.
Something that's actually worked for that offense compared to, Jordy Nelson.
Yeah, I think you just said how I believe very well. I think.
No, I said you don't buy into that.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Okay. I think Adams is fine. I've always said he is an okay wide receiver 3, and for this team, it's fine. He's going to get his touchdowns the same way James Jones used to do with Green Bay. He's a startable asset, but I think that if you look at targets from here to the rest of the season, Cobb's going to get more. Cobb has had several touchdown opportunities these last 2 weeks that just didn't happen. One got called back on a penalty that was nothing to do with the play.
One was barely out of bounds.
One was a drop. If those go the other way, we're going, oh my gosh, Randall Cobb, is he back? Is he a top 5? So I think it goes. And as far as Michael Crabtree, look, he's only had one bad game, and that was in a hurricane. The guy he's great. Still the number 1 there, and while I wouldn't put him as a wide receiver 1, I still see him as a great top tier wide receiver 2
option. He's this year's Eric Decker. He might be the guy that you want to auto start as that comfortable wide receiver 2 the whole season.
He will probably finish the year as a wide receiver 1 because of how hot his start has been.
To go back to the question where we started the show, Davante Adams and Randall Cobb, I would trade both of those guys for Allen Robinson.
Sure.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Tight ends, my start of the week.
Doyle rules.
Yeah, Jack Doyle, 9 for 78 and a touchdown. Jason's rolling his eyes because he signed Jack Doyle, then he released Jack Doyle for Brate, and then he wished he could get Jack Doyle back.
And then I went to sign Jack Doyle because I was like, you know what? Doyle is going to do it. As soon as I heard Quan Bray was out of the game, I'm like, well, Quan Bray's out because Philip Dorsett is out. Philip Dorsett's out because Dante Moncrief is out. Doyle's going to rule. Yes. And so I went to sign him. And apparently you were saying you were driving to church.
If you followed the Periscope on Sunday, thank you for joining me as usual. I had to do it early because my kids were in the church choir this weekend. So on the way, I was all set to play Pitta, and then there was all the news coming out about Flacco's arm. It just kept getting worse. Of he couldn't lift it above his head on Monday. He's still going to play. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to roll with Doyle over Pitta. So I would say like 15 minutes before waivers is rolling, I'm at a red light. I just throw it in there, whatever. And then
I had my claim. I was watching it like a hawk.
And then 15 minutes later, I get Jason just blasting me in Slack. It was glorious.
That's okay.
All right, before we jump into the Raising Cane's Rising Stars of the Week, I'm going to throw out a few names, and I want you guys to say whether you buy into them or whether they're one-week wonder type of scenarios. These are some other stud muffins this week. Michael Thomas.
He is getting targets.
10 for 130, 13 targets.
I buy in as a wide receiver 3.
As a 3 with upside every single week, I do.
All right, let's talk Brandon LaFell. Another good week for him. 4 for 83 and a touchdown.
The Browns. No, I do not buy in.
I buy Brandon LaFell as a weekly flex player.
Mike Wallace.
As long as Steve Smith-Senior is out, Mike Wallace is in.
Ty Montgomery.
In. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Until James Starks come back, which I haven't even mentioned that. The Green Bay situation, because that was the Thursday night game. If you can stash James Starks on an IR, I'd pick him up.
Absolutely.
All right, let's move on.
Raising Cane's Rising Stars of the Week.
All right, it's Monday. That means it's Raising Cane's Rising Stars of the Week. I'm going to kick it off. I might be stating the obvious from the Rising Star category, but I don't care.
He had to be in this.
Ajayi. Ajayi is my Rising Star of the Week. Look, the commitment to him, the commitment to the run, the volume level. Arian Foster's only contribution this week was a pathetic pass drop that they really needed. There is no way that I can see Foster taking this backfield away from Ajayi. So, in summary, as I said earlier, top 10 guy rest of the season for me. He's a baller.
Who has more yards, Jay Ajayi or Todd Gurley?
It's got to be. It's
don't
obviously
tell me
Ajayi.
that.
It's obviously Ajayi.
Oh, man, that's funny, though.
It's obviously Ajayi.
Wow.
Just like we predicted. Just
All
kidding.
right,
Just kidding. Just kidding.
I'll go with my rising star that I wanted to go with last week. I got the kibosh put on me. But I'm saying, no, you can't tell me I can't make it my rising star this week. It's Spencer Ware. Look, even last week, not knowing this was before anything about the Jamaal Charles knee, I had bought in. Because I was low on him, he was rising to me. He's a guy that I think is going to be valuable, is going to be start-worthy rest of season. Look, they do not need Jamaal Charles. I'm not saying that they might not be benefited by a healthy Jamaal Charles, but their team does not need him. There is absolutely no way you could convince me that the Chiefs absolutely need Jamaal Charles because Spencer Ware has been amazing. He's done it every single week. He's up near the top in yards per carry. He's great through the passing game. He's good on the goal line. I mean, there's no area where Spencer Ware is not quality. This is a team that is always good for the running backs. They can have multiple high-producing fantasy running backs. And now with the Jamaal Charles knee stuff, I like Spencer Ware. Rest of season, he's absolutely a guy that should be started.
Would you say he's good in every area?
Oh, no.
Nope.
Nope.
No, we wouldn't.
Mike.
Landriana. Psycho.
All right, who you got, Mike?
I'm going with Jacquizz Rodgers.
Yeah.
Look, this might not be a whole season thing, but Doug Martin is out for, I don't know. Who know? We don't know how long Doug Martin is going to go out, but we do know is in 2 weeks, Jacquizz Rodgers has piled up 56 carries for 256 yards. He has been a fantasy stud for 2 weeks. Look, and I know it's San Francisco last week, but the dude hit his career high in the second quarter because he's running like a man possessed. He looks fantastic. He gets involved in the passing game. He only had the 1 reception this week, but we know from 2 weeks ago that he can get involved in that. We know from his career he can also do that. Oakland and Atlanta are on deck for Jacquizz Rodgers, and you know this part blows my face off. His ownership in ESPN leagues, 34.5%.
That's absurd.
What is happening?
I mean, he was I think I ranked him as my number 6 running back this last week. If he was on waivers and not picked up, shame on you.
So grab Jacquizz. As long as Doug Martin is out, you just plug Jacquizz in, and you feel you got a warm blanket of fantasy gold around you.
All right, those were the Raising Cane's Rising Stars of the Week. Don't forget the game day always tastes better, win, loss, or tie, with Raising Cane's tailgates full of fresh 24-hour marinated hand-battered chicken fingers and that fresh brewed sweet tea.
Say, when you go into the Canes, you say, hey, give me a fantasy hitman special, and they'll go, What are you talking about? You say, okay, well, give me the box combo, sub coleslaw for extra fries and extra sauce.
Yeah, fair. Visit RaisingCanes.com to find your nearest location. Took my sister out to lunch at Raising Cane's this past week.
Well, you're killing me, man. I'm so hungry.
Yeah.
Pooped in his big boy pants.
All right, these are the guys that if they were on your roster, you might have lost this week or struggled. Hopefully you had some other guys in the Stud Muffin segment that could carry you, that could help you if you started Russell Wilson or Eli Manning. Ho-hum, Eli Manning, 196 and zip.
Oof. I'm the bigger story to me is Russell Wilson.
You know what he's on pace to run for this year?
I saw it. Was it 88?
88 yards.
Russell, because he's hurt. And you watched, he's had his bye week already. He gets no time off. And you watched him in that Arizona game.
If he could have run last night at all on any play, they completely knew he would not run.
Right. And I think if he could have run, that game is completely different. I think Seattle probably easily wins the game. But he can't. I mean, his ankles are extremely taped up.
He's got a huge brace
on his knee. It's panic time on Russell Wilson because that's what his game is. His game is built on his legs.
Their team can get it done, but for fantasy, he's not going to get it done for you with these numbers.
No.
All right, at the running back position, I'll call him my super pooper of the week because Jordan Howard, 7 for 22. This was a Thursday night game.
We've already told Howard we'd see him at the crossroads.
It's just
that was good. That was funny. I liked that.
Oh, yeah, you weren't here for that.
I wasn't. I enjoyed listening to that.
Yeah, that was funny. It's at this point, you missed your window to probably trade Howard for big. If you have a chance because he's young, do it. What's with this next guy? What happened to Terrance West?
I don't know.
8 for 10.
I know that he left early with he got dinged up and missed some time, and Kenneth Dixon took over. But the 8 for 10, this is one of those games I got to go back and watch on the replay because I wasn't able to catch a lot of it.
Now, by Dixon
Sunday.
taking over, did you mean 1 carry for 0 yards?
I just meant he came into the game.
I mean, this was an atrocious performance. Now, that's the Jets, but
we got some breaking news.
Breaking news.
Ian Rappaport reporting that, as we call him, Jerong Brown, has torn his ACL.
Ooh.
So Arizona Cardinals, Jerron Brown, that's for fantasy purposes. It gives a bump to Michael Floyd and John Brown as he had been cutting in. But not good news for the Cardinals. Our day just continues to suck.
If John Brown doesn't make it back next week, by the way, I think Michael Floyd
is a good
against
play.
the worst secondary in football maybe
as long as it
is a strong play.
As long as it hits him in the hands and not the breadbasket.
I don't want to talk about
the Michael Floyd breadbasket is full. Not accepting footballs.
Yeah, neither is Matt Jones. So Matt Jones stunk as well. What do you think Terrance West, you just have to hold this week and just say this was just an anomalous. You played the Jets. This is just not.
Yes.
Okay.
Look, Dixon didn't come in and take over. So it's still Terrance West.
All right, we pumped the brakes on Christine Michael this week. We knew he's playing in Arizona. He went 16 for 52. Not the worst performance.
It was. I thought they should have been giving him more carries.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. As a fan watching, I did not want to see him get more carries because I thought he could do something with it. But, yeah, I mean, we pumped the brakes. Hopefully you didn't start him anyways.
Wide receivers that stunk. We talked about Allen Robinson. What about Jordy Nelson, guys?
Jordy Nelson, I think, this is when you've got 3 wide receivers and you don't throw the ball a ton. He had a large.
What do you mean you don't throw the ball a ton?
You
throw it more than anybody in the entire league.
Okay, I'm saying in general for Aaron Rodgers usually is near the middle of the pack in total attempts, and I'm saying going forward, you have to realize you're going to have guys of these trifecta that might not, and really it's a quattro now with Ty Montgomery in there. However, he did have that long pass interference call early in the first. I believe he had another red zone target. I'm fine.
Fantasy points.
I'm fine with Jordy
4 weeks
Nelson.
in a row have gone down.
I would like to have Jordy Nelson.
I'm gonna take the other side of
Would
this.
you? So Jordy.
He's no longer a one.
Jordy or Allen Robinson.
Jordy.
Give me Allen Robinson.
Really?
Yeah, because Jordy's got Seattle and Minnesota. The same thing we talked about Aaron Rodgers in those last 2 games. Jordy is not getting targeted at the levels he used to. He's not making big plays. Only 1 game out of 6 so far over 73 yards.
I believe.
Sure.
So there's just nothing there. There's no
so
volume and no yardage.
Allen Robinson's playoff schedule also has Minnesota, then Houston,
Minnesota's
then Tennessee.
playing everybody. in the fantasy playoffs.
Yeah, it's a judgment call there. Both guys have been stinking, so you
Both
can
guys
take
have been stinking with bad playoff schedules.
Yeah, so you can take your pick.
Sure.
Jordan Matthews, 3 for 10. Jeremy Curley, 2 for 15.
I think those guys they're losing their big boy pants though.
I don't think Jeremy Curley had big boy pants.
How about Stefan Diggs? Stefan Diggs. Everybody wanted to give him big boy pants, and I said it. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it. This is not the kind. That is like, there are certain offenses that just do not have the volume. We saw this last year.
Yep.
We saw this with Diggs already. This is the instant replay.
He had a couple games with that 4-game massive stretch, but when you don't throw the ball that much, it's really hard
Or
to be
that
a weekly,
well.
Yeah, especially with Sam Bradford.
There will be a stretch coming up for Diggs though.
Okay, Jeffrey, does he ever get in the end zone this year?
Yeah, I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
Jeffrey was a guy I had told you guys to tell people to target because I think this injury to Brian Hoyer, he is out. I feel like that's going to have to rush Cutler back at some point. When Cutler is back, Alshon Jeffery is going to be a good option. He's finally healthy, and I don't blame Alshon Jeffery for having a bad game considering that their second-string quarterback got injured and their unprepared third-string quarterback came in.
But can you start him in the interim? I mean, right now,
No.
he doesn't even seem like.
Not until Cutler's
If
back.
Gnarls Barkley is the quarterback, no.
All right. Jeremy Maclin, I lost this bet, 4 for 40. That's not going to put him in the top 10.
Called it. I am not supremely worried. I think Jeremy Maclin's going to be what he has always been for the Chiefs, week in, week out.
Yeah,
This
which
doesn't.
is 5 for 50.
Yeah, but a chance for a touchdown, Mike.
Brandon Marshall was not good, 3 for 39, despite the win.
Yeah, that stunk. I traded for him this week, and he crapped my team.
But you're confident in him.
Yeah, I mean, he's the number one. He's extremely talented. I mean, he's been great all year. This is going to be his worst game of the season.
Amari Cooper, Kenny Britt, Deshaun Jackson, 3 other guys. I mentioned Britt just because he had kind of been pumped up last week.
Yeah, we finally start giving Case Keenum a little bit of credit.
You guys ready to give up on Djax yet?
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not sure this is a bad game for him. 5 for 35.
Yeah, it's time to.
He's
It's
been poopy.
All right, Martellus Bennett only ran 10 passing routes this week. He also had limited snaps. I think he started something like, I don't know, 65% of snaps, somewhere around there. I'll bet that.
This is the danger of Martellus Bennett. It's the ceiling that you've seen, 3 touchdowns, but you know the floor is literally 0 points.
30 of 57 snaps.
But when you compare Martellus Bennett in the Barfy tight end category, I'll take the guy who has the ceiling. So I'm still okay plugging Martellus Bennett in.
Hunter Henry and Travis Kelce both pooped in their big boy pants this weekend.
Yeah.
Henry had just been awarded them. He had just opened them in the mail. He put them on, went out there. Now, I'll say this, his one reception was about a yard from a touchdown. But,
Yeah.
I mean, this is a game where they
He
won.
also had another
They didn't use
really
him.
nice fade route to the end zone where he caught the ball in tough coverage, but the guy got him pushed out just enough where his second foot came down out of bounds. But that was another, you add that play, which was probably a 15-yard pass, and he's 30 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah.
You're not
That's why owning Greg Olsen is nice.
Yes.
Because he doesn't have to score.
Hunter Henry is part of the roulette.
Did you
He's
know?
just one of the pieces.
Did you guys know that this week the all-time NFL record for consecutive 200-yard passing games was broken?
What do you mean?
A quarterback this week threw for the most consecutive 200-plus yards in the history of the NFL.
That has to be one of the big boys. So you're talking like Breeze.
Yeah, Breeze is who I would have thought.
Yeah.
It was actually an honorable mention for pants poopers this week. Matthew Ryan.
Matt Ryan?
He is the all-time NFL record holder for consecutive 200-plus yard games.
I'm not going to call his game a full poop.
No, I agree. It's just an honorable. The only reason he's an honorable mention is because he was consistently in most people's rankings a top 3.
Sure. So, I said it before. Kelce and Maclin, if they didn't blow it up this week, I was done. I'm done with them both.
Ooh.
I'm done with them both. Look, you're probably in a position where you got to start Kelce, but you don't have to start Maclin. And there are plenty of options on waiver wire that I would have picked up. I mean, we talked about Tyrell Williams this week. If he's out there, we're going to get into that tomorrow on the waiver wire show, but I'm done expecting anything special from those guys. They don't need to do it. Jason brought up they don't need Jamaal Charles right now. They also don't need to pass the ball to Kelsey and Macklin in volumes
They
that
don't
will get
need
fantasy
nothing.
owners enough.
Nothing.
Other players, Odell Beckham Jr. had a tough week. You're not sitting him. Blake Bortles stunk. Just bleh. Those are the only guys that I think are worth mentioning before we get into the Monday night game.
I would agree.
All right, let's talk Texans and Broncos. Preview the game for this evening. I know a lot of fantasy matchups are going to be hinging on the performance of players like Lamar Miller, like DeAndre Hopkins,
Like the Denver defense.
like Demaryius Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, and the Anderson Booker combo on that side. I had a panic moment, and I regret it now, but I had a panic moment about this Anderson Booker timeshare, and that caused me to go out and trade those guys and some draft assets.
I wondered why you made that
and
move.
acquire Mark Ingram, because I am worried about Anderson. Now, this matchup, I thought Anderson could play well, but they've come out repeatedly this week and said they want to get Booker more carries. Booker's been hyper efficient. I am worried about this going from, to become a Devonta Freeman, Tevin Coleman situation, because it should become that for them to be a better team.
Yeah, this is the same exact team with the same coach, the same scheme, and the same player in C.J. Anderson last year that frustrated fantasy owners because it was like, why is Ronnie Hillman so involved? The reason Ronnie Hillman was so involved is because that's what they want to do. They want to have, their backs fresh. And so now if Devonta Booker, who has looked pretty good, can fill in that role, I expect rest of season. I still think C.J. Anderson's going to be the more productive. I mean,
of
vastly,
the two.
vastly more productive than Booker. And he's still a good fantasy option. But those first few weeks where it looked like he was getting 90% of the touches, or even 65-70%, it's not going to happen.
He was far more efficient. And, in the beginning of the season, you've had now 1 touchdown over 4 weeks for C.J. Anderson. You've had him 6, 13, 8, 10. And look, Booker can get to the edge. C.J. Anderson does a lot of things well. He sure as heck can't get to the edge. He's not fast enough. He's tough. He made some good plays last week that got called back. And, again, not selling C.J. Anderson. I'm just a little bit worried because this offense with Simeon, they don't need to lean on it very heavily. They don't have to be hyper efficient. And look, C.J. Anderson, yardage in the last 4 weeks is all you have to look at. 37, 49, 41, 37. He's not even getting over 50 yards rushing.
Are you buying Booker? I mean, knowing that Ronnie Hillman last year was a valuable fantasy asset for a long stretch of time.
No, I'm not. I'm not buying him.
And I'm far less concerned about C.J. Anderson than you guys. I'm not worried about Booker coming in and taking over.
What are the chances that tonight's game?
Because
I'm just curious why.
Because C.J. Anderson is just what my eyes are telling me. C.J. Anderson is the better player. He's the better running back, and he's the better pass protector. I mean,
I agree on the pass protection.
For all of the chaos of the thing that happened was Booker came in and had 2 or 3 back-to-back great runs. C.J. Anderson was still on the field over 78% of the snaps. C.J. Anderson is still the guy for that team.
It's not so much that. Like, that's not arguable. But neither are the fact that when he gets those snaps, you're talking about 10 carries, then 11 carries. You're talking about no pass targets until garbage time last week. What I'm saying is if you're on the field for that much time and not producing, how are you going to be better when you bring Booker in for more snaps?
I just don't think that Booker's actually going to take more snaps.
Yeah, I think he will. I don't expect that to really eat into C.J. Anderson's fantasy production, though.
All right. Well,
I'm just curious if we're going to have back-to-back 6-6 ties.
Oh,
because I could see that. This looks like a 6-6 tie game to me.
You're not sitting Lamar Miller.
You're probably not sitting any of your guys. Hopkins.
You're not playing Fuller, though. You're sitting Fuller.
No, you're definitely sitting Fuller.
Fedorowicz.
Hopefully you were able to sit Hopkins if you had 3 great options, but he could come through. Fedorowicz actually is not a bad.
Nope.
I think he'll be around that 12.
He could be a Doyle level play this week.
Yeah, I don't.
The old Doyle Fedorowicz.
Not Doyle level, but
Doyle was
Fedorowicz was very good last week. Seems to have taken the mantle.
I actually was looking for a new
12 points.
I was looking for a new hat the other day, so I bought a Fedorowicz.
I'm sure you did, because you're that kind of guy. I think we're done. I think the show's over.
Good. We can get back to our
My
clinical
Fedorowicz
depression.
hat joke shuts it down.
Nobody knew that we started the show once already. For the first time.
Well, they didn't.
For the first time, we all said we kind of felt Jason's been under the weather. I've been a little bit under the weather. Mike is coming out of the swarm of that game last night.
We're all in full clinical depression right now.
Right. We're all dealing with the ridiculous tie that hurt the Cardinals. And for the first time in the history of the show, I actually started the show without recording the show.
We had to do it over.
But I caught it at the 3-minute mark because otherwise, imagine being right here, right now at this point of the show.
Hey, guys, I didn't record.
I forgot to record again.
Here's what's unfortunate for the Foot Clan. That was the best 3 minutes of the fantasy footballers of all time.
Oh, yeah.
And you'll never hear it.
Yep. It's true.
Sorry.
All right. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll be back tomorrow. The Waiver Wire show will reflect on the rest of, I guess, the Monday night game and all the injury reports, get you ready for Week 8 somehow. We're getting to that point. I know we're going to have some special things going on. There's a very special new segment coming this week, and that's all I'm going to say. Very special.
Oh, yes.
Very special.
Yes, okay.
And I believe, I'm going to put it out there, I think we're going to do some sort of election special.
It's required.
Now, we're not going to get into politics. We'll get into fantasy football politics. But we'll have a little election special show coming up. A lot of fun things going on. We invite you to come check out an extra episode of jointhefoot.com, and we'll be back tomorrow, guys.
And check out fantasyjocks.com where winners go because winners need trophies. fantasyjocks.com, promo code footballers. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you tomorrow. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.